Hi everybody, if you've been following along for a while, you have seen this cloth. I have been weaving it for a while, and so this is what it looks like now. But let me walk you through the process so far. I used this combination of yarns. Some of this was weaving yarn, and some of it is actually more knitting or crocheting yarn, but that's fine. If you're really careful with it, you can do it either way. You can see that some of my little skeins are just about gone. Little bits and pieces are left here. This is a pretty big project. It took a lot of yarn.
She is weaving, mending, gathering the fragments. She is watching over you. So weave and mend, weave and mend. Gather the fragments safe and win the sacred circle, sisters. Weave and mend, weave and mend. Oh, women, weave and mend.
When it came off of the loom, I was hesitant, honestly. I'll be honest with you, I was hesitant about throwing it in the washer and putting it in the dryer. However, since I'm going to make a garment out of this, I wanted it to go ahead and felt up as much as it needed to, or as it wanted to, and that way I wouldn't feel hesitant about throwing it in the washer again if it ever needed to be washed in the future, and I wouldn't have to wonder if it would felt further. So it has done everything it's going to do. One of the things that happens is that when the project comes off the loom, it may shrink as much as 10% just coming off the loom. And then when you put it through the felting process, it's going to shrink more. And so you figure about another 10%. So if you've got a 32-inch wide loom, when you're done with the cloth, it's not going to be 32 inches wide. So it's not 32 inches anymore. I don't know. I have measured. I just don't remember what the number is. So I was saying a prayer, threw it in the washer, took it out of the washer, and I could tell already it was glorious. Threw it in the dryer. It came out of the dryer just all fluffy and wonderful like this. If you've never felted something before, what happens is it goes from very distinct little threads and yarns into this kind of melded look where everything is kind of softly kind of blended together, and it becomes so I'm not quite sure what the right word for this. What's the opposite of individualistic? That's what felted cloth is. It's the opposite because before it goes in the dryer, you can see each thread. Before it goes in the washer and the dryer to felt, you can see each thread. When it comes out, you can't necessarily pick out an individual anymore. It has become a whole nother thing, which is really wonderful. And then I took some time to cut off the fringe. So, like for example, this big fluffy yarn, when it went into the dryer, it would have been, that long and thin, but now it's felted also, so it looks very different. So this is all stuff that I will find ways to use in other projects because it's still usable. It's been felted once, but it is still usable. So I will be keeping all of my scraps from the project that I'm embarking on here, and hopefully I'll be able to use those again in some other projects.
Darkness of the storm, she is watching. She is weaving, mending, gathering the fragments.
I started this project with a drawing, which looks like this. I started this project with a drawing and an item of clothing that I picked up at Goodwill or another thrift store of that nature. And so I'm going to do something that I've done before many years ago, and basically I'm going to cut apart one garment and use it as the pattern for the new garment, with some adjustments. So it's not going to turn out exactly like the old garment. It's going to be different, but we're just going to try it, and it's just going to be an experiment. I am not going to hold too closely to some ideal that it's going to turn out to be this certain thing. I'm basically going to just go into it with an open heart and an open spirit, and together the cloth and I are going to turn out into something. And right now, I don't know what the something is, and that's okay. Okay, I believe I picked this up at Goodwill, so let me show you what it is that I'm working with. This is my starting place, okay? This is a little wool, boiled wool vest. It's very square, and it's kind of short. It comes above my hips, and it's got a zipper, which is not, oh, there we go, which is great. It's got a little bitty bit of a collar, not much, and it fits, okay? It's a little boxy. There's no shape to it. It doesn't follow my curves at all. It's got a good bit of extra cloth in the back. However, it fits through here, and that's important that it come to my shoulders, and it does come across. And it fits in a kind of loosely, kind of boxy sort of, not at all tailored sort of way, okay? So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to sacrifice it to the project. So here we go. Basically what I'm going to do here, as you can see where the seams are, and I'm going to come around. I'm going to start right here at the neck, and I'm cutting as close to the seam as I can. Okay, so far there's the collar, and there's the first part of the neck. I'm going to go ahead and get the rest of the collar off. Oh, there's a tag in the way here. I don't really want to cut the tag with my good scissors. And finish cutting that off. Okay, so there's the collar. Now if I wanted to, I could come along and steam this or iron this so I would know what shape to cut if I were going to make a collar like that. But I'm not thinking that's the route I'm going to go. I'm going to go ahead and cut off this edge, the zipper. Now I'm cutting carefully because I want to retain the shape. Some of the shape. Now it is entirely possible to create a pattern like this without cutting up the garment. It takes a lot more time, I guess. And that's honestly, when I was in college, that's how I made most of my clothes. I would find something I liked, maybe even borrow it from a friend, and then make another garment based on it, using the measurements and figuring out the shapes that it needed to be cut into. But college was a really long time ago, and this little sacrificial jacket was, you know, not a big deal, not a big cost. And if I really like how it turned out, then I have a pattern to do this again and again and again, which I think is a real treat. So here we go, we're going to do the other side as well. And I'm just cutting the zipper front piece out. Okay, so that's the zipper front. You can see some of my cuts are a little bit hesitant, so I'm going to go ahead and even that out a little bit. Now, right here at the shoulders, there's a seam, and I'm going to cut that. That's easy. Go ahead and cut through the edge. Then you can even see, let me do this a little bit closer to you because this one's kind of interesting. You can see the seam here, and all I'm doing I don't know if I can hold this where you can see it without dropping it. Okay, all I'm doing is cutting straight down that seam. And as it turns out, I was able to cut the thread. Now that's going to be the exception. That's not going to work that way every time. That's going to be the exception, not the rule. I'm going to try it here along the sides also. Okay. All right, so you can see the seam salvage is still on. That's kind of fun. And then again, can you still see what I'm doing? Oh, you probably couldn't see the last seam I did. Okay, so here is the front part. Here's the back piece. And here's the seam with the salvage showing. So I'm just cutting along that middle. And then cutting through the edging. And it's actually keeping the salvage edge here, which is kind of fun. So I have a back piece and two front pieces, just as simple as that. So I'm going to put these aside for the moment. And we're going to cut into the yardage. Here we go. So first of all, let me show you what I've done. This is where I started, and it's got a little bit more width here, which I'm hoping will form a little bit of a ruffle in the, I don't know if that shows or not. But maybe, just maybe, this edge will have a little bit of a ruffle to it. We'll see. I don't know. We'll find out. Now I have decided to make this piece, use this piece as the collar, and what I can do is follow this all the way across. It's already a built-in guide because that's precisely how woven cloth with a pattern in it like this works. So I'm just carefully cutting right along that line. Okay, now this is going to be my collar, and what I really like is that it has just a little bit of wave in that edge. That's kind of a little bit of a ruffle, so we'll see. So I'm going to put that here. Now here is the back of the garment that I just cut up, and it's salvage. Let's put the salvage along the edge here. And the salvage comes out another 1/2 inch. Now let's see if that is 20 inches. Yeah. Dead on. So what we're going to do is, this is a handy measuring tool here. So there is a white thread right here that comes in at the 20-inch mark. So that's what I'm going to do. I am boldly going to follow that line to right here, and I am just going to start cutting. And I'm going to cut the entire length of the cloth at this point. This is really one of the perks of having a weft in the cloth, or a warp rather, that is very variegated, because there were so many different threads going this way in the cloth. It makes it easy to pick one out and just see, and to see that all the way through the cloth. Now what I want to know, there it is, there's that thread. What I wanted to see, is if it would be possible to unravel this. And the answer is yes, you can. but it does take a little bit of effort. Okay, so I'm not going to worry about this necessarily coming apart with normal wear. That would be kind of cool, I think. But I may also do some things to stop it from fraying. Okay. All right, I have decided to use this piece as a pocket, a potential pocket. So what I'm going to do is come along here. I'm going to follow this white thread across, and I'm going to go ahead and cut that piece off. Okay, now this may turn up as a pocket on the garment. We'll see. Not sure yet. Okay, so that's the new bottom. And then I'm going to come here. Basically, at this point, all I'm doing is cutting the cloth in half. And right here, there is a beautiful lime green thread, and I'm just going to follow that all the way across. Okay, now I have a front and back. Now what I'm going to do is just take a look at the cloth and decide which one I want in the front and which one I want in the back. Because they are very much similar, but they are not the same. I'm getting hung up on the cutting out cloth on a live edge red oak table. That's funny. Okay, so I think my favorite part of this cloth is right here. So I'm going to put this in the front, and this will be the back. So let's go ahead and cut the back first. Now here's how you would cut the back. I'm going to put the two selvage edges together. And I'm going to make sure that they line up, because you want this end of the thread and this end of the thread to be in the same place. Okay? So that's what we're going to do all the way down. Now, I'm going to cut this, I'm going to put this right here where you can still see the whole thing. And I'm going to take, this is the back of the vest that I'm copying. We're going to fold it in half also. And I have the fold of the cloth here. This is the raw edge. Okay? So I'm going to put the fold of this cloth here, and the same thing. I'm going to line that up all the way down. Okay? And then we're just going to put that in place. And I'm going to go get my pin cushion. So, now that I have it in place, I'm going to go ahead and pin so that so I know specifically where to cut. Now since I'm not going to be cutting in the black cloth, I'm going to be cutting the green, I'm going to put the pins in the black cloth so that I'm not cutting them when I cut this seam. Okay. Okay, so basically, I'm leaving on this edge. I won't be cutting this again, unless I make some alterations to the garment when it's done. So that's going to stay in place. So I think this is good. Basically, what I need this black thing for is to show me this edge, and this curve. And that way I know, if I follow these edges, I know that this will fit me very nicely. And that way I don't have to start from zero, and there's no need for a pattern, because this garment is the pattern. Now, I'm going to make sure again that these are lined up evenly. I'm just going to double check, because I want them to be lined up evenly. Okay. Now we're going to pop that back over on with a pin and a pin. Okay. Now, since this edge actually goes in a seam, I'm going to cut at a distance from that edge to give space for the seam. Okay. Now you can already see the selvage edge on this side, so I'm going to cut this where the selvage is, here. You know what, I'm going to do these one at a time. Okay, so I did the top one. Now I'm coming along to do the bottom piece. Okay, so I've got some little extra goodies. Now, so I'm just going to cut along this curve, just with the top piece. And then I'm going to, because it's so thick, I'm going to do the same thing again with the bottom piece. Okay, now, that's all I need that piece for. And let's bring out the other piece. Now, the question becomes, which way do I want to be at the top of my garment? And I'm going to just look at it a little bit. I'd like this to be at the top of my garment. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this in the middle. That's going to be saving myself a part of a step, I guess. So we've got a 20-inch piece. That means we're cutting right here. I'm going to check it again. You know, they say, check twice, cut once. So I'm going to cut right down the middle of this little section right here, just like that. Okay, these are the two front pieces. Okay, now I'm finding myself tempted to switch one and to do the front like so. Because that's kind of fun, isn't it? I am going to do this just because I'm going to do this flip, just because it gives it a little bit more of a nod to its handmade nature and the slow fashion beauty of it. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And now, for the sake of ease, I'm going to put them together. And we're going to cut them together, just like we did on the back. Only this is the center front. Now, so I'm going to pin here to keep it in place as I'm cutting. But the pin is in the black where I'm not in danger of running into it with my good shears. And then I'm going to do one over here as well. Okay? Now I think it's going to be easiest if I do one piece at a time, one layer. So here we go. Okay, so I've got one piece cut, and that's looking very good. Here we go with the next one. Now actually I can take the black off from here and just cut based on the first one. Okay. Okay, there we have it. Oh, somehow I ended up with it being a little bit longer in the front. Front pieces are just a hair bit longer. I'm not bothered by that at all, though. Not a problem. Okay. Oopsie. And then we've got this collar piece. Okay. So I'm going to start here, and this is the left side. By the way, this is the back, this is the left side, so, or no, correction, this is the right side. So I'm going to put a pin here, and one here, and one here. And we're going to bring this piece in. And I'm going to put a pin here. Now this is just going to hold it in place as you're sewing. And I haven't decided yet whether I'm sewing it by hand or if I'm going to do it on the machine. I kind of like the idea of sewing it by hand, but I'm also really impatient and I want this to be done sometime this millennia. So that's good. Okay, we got thread in it. Let's see if I can make it sew. Gosh, we can make it slow, but no races are going to be won here. Okay, that's good. I don't remember how you cut it off on this one. Okay, like so. Now the next thing I want to know is if I can sew two thicknesses, and if it will get hung up, or if I will be able to do it. Because it is very thick. These are two thick pieces of cloth. It's working. Yeah, that's great. All right. Those are good experiments, and I learned something. So that's fantastic. I want to make sure everything I'm working, every area I'm working in is actually clean. Details, you know, an important detail. All right, we're going to put that baby in place. Take the thread, the pin out. Okay, here we go. Alright, when you get close to the pin, take the pin out. Make sure everything's where you want it to be. Carry on. You don't want to run into a pin, so. And thread up and cut off. There's one piece. Next, take the thread out. Alright, not crazy about that. I'm going to give it a little head start moving forward so it... There we go. Pin out. Up and off. Okay, so these top two seams are finished. Just that easily. We're going to put it on wrong side out. That way I can get a feel for how to pin and how to sew the sides. Okay. So I'm going to take her off, and we're going to go ahead and sew those seams down the sides. Okay, wish me luck. I think it's looking pretty good. Okay, here we go. Little bit back stitch and forward again and stop and up and trim. Okay, so that's the side seam. That's how it looks. Okay, now let's do the other. There's a lot of noise going on outside, but hopefully you can still hear me. And we're going to try this other side. All right, so when that happens, because the feed dogs are having trouble getting a hold of it underneath. So when that happens, just give it a little bit more progress and then try again. Alright, I want to take out my pin without getting slammed by that little knob. Okay, here we go. Okay, back her up a few stitches and back again and then up. Okay, and that's the two sides done. All right, let's try it on. We're again trying it on wrong side out, and that'll give you a feel for how well it fits. Alright, we've got pretty good. I'm going to take these pins out of the back just to see how that looks. We may just go that route. So, I think it looks pretty good. Well, let's try it with it a little closed. Okay, so that looks pretty good. We've got a good shape here. This is pretty consistent the whole way down. And there's no curve in the back, but heck, it's a sweater. Maybe there's not supposed to be a curve every last place there's a curve on me. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and trim this at some point, but maybe not right this minute. I'm going to go ahead and play with a collar. See what that looks like. That's kind of interesting, isn't it? Now the question is, can I handle it against my skin? Because wool is traditionally a little bit scratchy. But the beauty of it is that this has been felted, and so it is not the least bit scratchy. It is beautiful. And so I think we'll try for a collar. So let's see what that looks like, okay? Now, we're going to pin it into place with the seams, the right side facing me up, okay? And then I'm going to find the center of the collar, which is just done like that. You just fold it in half and put a pin there. Same thing with the back, the center back. Fold it in half, put a pin there. Okay. Now, bring these out. I don't really want the scissors under there. Okay, so there's my pin. And here's my pin. So let's see, which side do I want up? this side up. Okay, so we're going to connect those two right there in the center of the back, because that will make it possible for the sides to be even. Okay, that is the collar pinned in place. So I'm going to do, I'm going to make it really easy on myself, and I'm going to sew from the middle out on one side, and then I'm going to flip it and sew from the middle out on the other side, because the things have a tendency to move when you're dealing with this much cloth. And so if they move, I want them to move towards the front, okay? So that's what I'm going to be doing next. Okay, and again, like I said a minute ago, I am starting from the center of the back and sewing towards the front of the garment on this side, and then I will stop and do the same thing on the other side, okay? I'll stop and give it a little back stitch here, and then we're gonna go. We're gonna move a little slower because this is got a nice curve to it. And then trim. Okay, so that's it, just like that. Let's try it from the other side now. A little bit forward and up. And then we're going to give it a little cut. Now, I'm going to try this on, see how it looks. Okay, all right, let's see what it looks like. And this time we're going to put it on right side out so we can get a feel for what that collar looks like. Okay, got it on the shoulders. Collar looks like so. Nice big floppy collar. Okay. Now we've got a little bit of, I'm gonna trim some of that so that they'll be even on both sides, and that's fine. And I've got some threads to trim. But so far I think it's looking pretty good. Now I need to go back and finish some seams, and we've got a good bit of extra fabric right here. So we're gonna be doing a little zigzag on some seams, and I'm thinking it's looking pretty good. I mean, the collar's fun, isn't it? Looking pretty good so far. Yeah, I really like the collar, I must say. I really do. I'm happy with the collar. Okay, here I've got all this extra thickness from the sewing the curve in here. So I'm going to come along one at a time and trim a little closer to the seam so there's not a lot of bulk there under my arm. So that's one piece. Okay, and then we can trim the threads on the sewing. Okay, so that's one side. Let's also do the other side. So we're going to again come along with the shears and give it a little trim so that we don't have a lot of extra bulky fabric under the arm at the waist. Because none of us want extra bulky fabric at the waist. Okay, so there's that. So I'm going to go ahead and come through here and do I think I may do a zigzag. So we'll see. See how that turns out. Okay, so here's the finished garment. I am happy with it. So I added these triangles right here, and you can see they go, it's just one long rectangle about this measurement by the length from here to here, and then I cut it diagonally and sewed it right down here on both sides. So that's given me a lower lapel to go with the top one. Okay, so I am loving it. Just wearing it around, it kind of ends up with the with the bottom open, and it kind of comes together here in the middle. There's not a lot of shape to it, but it's not entirely boxy either, so that's good. Before I put the lapel on it, I didn't really like it. That's the honest truth, because I felt like I brought it together and it just wasn't satisfying. What I wanted from a sweater, and this is just something personal to me, is I want to be able to do that and just feel the coziness of having all that cloth around me. So not being able to pull it together in the front didn't suit me at all. So this is a pattern. I mean, it's not a pattern because all I did was buy a little top at a thrift store and cut it up and use it as a pattern. So this is a pattern, so to speak, that I would very happily repeat. And I think I will be looking at the thrift store again for something with sleeves this time, because what I lack in this scenario is sleeves. And I think that would be an addition to this little outfit, little vest, that would work really well. So I also have a ton of other ideas, and so we'll see how it goes.